everybody, to another week of That Movie Show. Mike Wendt and Eddie McCabe taking you through another week of movie talk. And I'm going to start. Usually I ask Eddie how you doing, but I fucking hate you right now.
Yeah, I was going to welcome everybody into the last episode of That Movie Show.
Yeah,
because
did you, Rich, and Andy get together and say we're going to make Mike quit podcasting? Because I think you all fucking hate me.
Yes, we did. We conspired against you.
This is fucking terrible.
See, the secret is that when we've been not planning what movie we're going to do the following week,
yeah,
I always pick a very good movie and a garbage movie. And it just so happens,
I gave you Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you come back with this. What did I do? What?
Yeah.
When did I hurt you? What did I do to offend you so much?
Look, here's the thing, man. I will tell you that this is one of those movies, kind of in the same way that Hocus Pocus and probably I don't know if we've done Space Jam on this show before, right?
Not yet. I'm sure we're gonna get to it next month when
with actual Space Jam. But it's definitely Hocus Pocus, where it's one of those movies where I was 12 to 14 when this movie came out. Okay. So the stupidity of this hits the stupid brain of a tween.
All right. Well, here's the thing, because we did cover Hocus Pocus, and I didn't like the movie, but I got it.
Oh,
it was a movie, and there was a couple of instances where I chuckled at it, but a lot of it I didn't like, and it was it was definitely, it was not meant for a 40-year-old man to get all into on his one of the first times actually sitting and watching it. I've caught it on TV and stuff, but never actually sat and watched it. So it's but I got it. This was a waste of money. This was fucking Fox wasted $10 million on this fucking movie.
Yes, so 100%.
Because we're just gonna get into it. So let's just play the fucking trailer and just get into this.
In a land of mysterious beauty, in a time of extraordinary legends, in a place of ancient secrets, the greatest hero the world has ever known is about to kick his first butt. Now, after a lifetime of training...
Hey, who's he?
I don't know. The Chosen One has returned.
If you truly are the Chosen One, then you must bear the sacred mark.
To deliver the people from the forces of darkness. And to check out the hotties.
Be not concerned of her shyness, for it will pass. There you go.
20th Century Fox invites you to feel the fury. Taste the passion.
You are the chosen one. One day, all will be revealed to you.
I'm sorry?
And witness the utter madness. Kung Pao. Enter the fist.
Kung Pao Enter the Fist was unleashed on the world January 25th, 2002. That was the day movies died. It had a budget of $10 million that Fox wasted. It had box office of $17 million that people like Eddie, when he was, fucking 10 years old, convinced his parents to go waste. It was written and directed by Steve Oedekerk, who last week I think we confused for Bob Odenkirk because the last name is really similar, but no relation, and definitely not even the same spelling of the last name, and definitely nowhere near the same talent of Bob Odenkirk. So I apologize, Bob Odenkirk, for confusing you with this fucking hack. It stars Steve Oedekerk and then a fucking bunch of Hong Kong movies that he basically bootlegged and ripped off, and made a YouTube fucking video that, again, and we said this off air, and this is how I feel. First of all, I was texting when I was watching it, and I said that this feels like an SNL skit that would have been cut in rehearsal.
Yes.
And then when we finally looked into Steve Oedekerk, he was a writer on In Living Color. So yes, the sketch comedy side of my brain was working. I think he wrote a lot for Jim Carrey because he wrote the Ace Ventura sequel. He wrote Bruce Almighty. He's in that. You can
see it in his mannerisms in this movie too.
Yeah. Like it feels like he wrote this and wanted Jim Carrey to do it, and then showed Jim
was
Carrey,
like, no,
and he's like, no, this is dumb.
Yeah,
no. So it also felt like, again, if you had sent me a link to a YouTube video and said, look what these guys did. They took their friend and they inserted him into a bunch of old Hong Kong kung fu flicks. Right. I would have watched it for 7 minutes and be like, okay, that's really fucking cool. I spent an hour and a half and watching it, and it started with the 20th Century Fox. You know, the company that's the opening of Star Wars had the same logo as this pile of dog shit.
Yeah. Yes. I'm really glad.
I hate you.
I am really glad that this made you as mad as I wanted it to.
Yeah.
I'm really glad. So thank you for that.
I'm gonna get you back though. I got next week's fucking movie already planned. I'm gonna get you fucking back. It's on Tubi, so you know where we're going.
Oh no. But
the bastion of quality entertainment. We're gonna be watching Tubi next week.
So this movie, basically, for the concept is these people, like, basically they took a movie. It's called Crane and Tiger Fist. Yep. That's the name of the movie. And they superimposed the Steve Oedekerk. I think it's Oedekerk.
Oh, I'm just going to try to phonetically pronounce it. Oedekerk. Oedekerk. I'm going with Oedekerk.
I think it's Oedekerk, but that's fine. Oedekerk is fine. Whatever. Steve. We're just going to go with Steve. We're going to go with Steve. And so he basically takes out the main character, puts himself in, and then with the exception of like a couple of scenes that they filmed, it's mostly this Hong Kong movie,
right? Or
it's this Kung Fu movie, but they basically did Mystery Science Theater 3000, but manipulated the movie. And again, like, I'm gonna my nostalgia brain here, like watching it as like a 14-year-old, was like, oh, it was close enough to Mystery Science Theater 3000. It was that stupid silly that 14-year-old boys enjoy. So that hit. Watching it again now, like with the vast film experience and knowledge that I have. You're 100% right. This movie is a waste of time. It was a waste of time and money. Yep. It is bad. It is real bad.
Yeah. Like here's the thing. Like we've covered bad movies, and I don't know if
this is Farce Wars bad.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's Farce Wars. Like I mean, that one we were sitting and I was drinking. We were just watching and doing a live watch along. But like, even Pool Boy didn't anger me as much, and I think it's because Fox gave this guy money to make this. Yeah, shit.
we watched Farce Wars, which is part of that like mockbuster. It's a part of that mockbuster genre, right? Like,
right.
Even though it's absolute horseshit,
yeah,
it's designed to just get people to be like, oh, it's like close enough. It's a spoof movie to like these blockbusters. Like, I'll give it a shot. You know, like, in the same way that like
Farce Wars wasn't released. It wasn't released theatrically.
Right.
It looked and probably did only cost about $2 to make. You know, this had a $10 million budget. It had a fucking art and marketing department. 20th Century Fox released this fucking thing. Like, that angers me to no end.
Yes.
And then you're telling me this guy makes fucking movies with his fucking thumb, like Senior Wenzel? It's like, what the fuck? Who's giving this guy money?
It's tough because, the landscape is also to blame, right? Like, that's you're looking at a time, and if I'm believing the timeline to be correct, it's around the first Scary Movie. So it gets greenlit probably because they're like, oh, you know, spoof kind of comedy is in. They end up, they end up seeing the success of Scary Movie and think, all right,
Movie was 2000, so this is 2 years later. Probably got greenlit the year after.
Right.
And again, his resume has a living color on it, so they're probably thinking the same thing.
Yep. And so that's really what it boils down to. You know, notice how we never really saw anything from him ever again, like out of this time period, because he does the clumps, he does.
I mean, his IMDb isn't. I mean, as far as
not bad.
No, as far as a working writer, and you can tell most of it is probably because he worked with Jim Carrey is probably what happened. My guess is because he's credited as a writer on In Living Color, which is one of his very early credits. And then he does the Ace Ventura sequel. He writes the Nutty Professor movie, which, come on, it was written by Eddie Murphy. Let's be fucking honest here. He writes and directs Nothing to Lose. He's on a screenplay for Patch Adams, but let's be honest, that's Robin Williams. It's like he seems to attach himself to very, very funny improvisational comedians and then gets a screenplay credit. It's like, all right, pal, I get it.
This movie, I would love to see somebody take a stab at it again. Like the concept of superimposing them into an old 70s kung fu movie, because when done right, you get Black Dynamite. You know?
Yeah, but you don't need. Yeah, I mean, you don't need to superimpose yourself over that. Because I was thinking of Black Dynamite the whole time too. That whole Kung Fu Island scene. I'm like, yeah, I would much rather be watching that right now.
Right, and that's I mean? and I think that's kind of like
just do a Kung Fu spoof. Just give Michael Jai White all the money. Like, why has Outlaw Johnny Black not come out? But this thing exists. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and he
had the balls to end this movie with a potential sequel cliffhanger. Fuck you.
Oh, yeah.
You asshole.
Oh, the whole thing is stupid. The whole movie is absolutely stupid. I remember laughing my balls off though with the again. I didn't find it as funny this time around, because
I didn't chuckle once.
Oh, I could imagine, because you live in a world where Black Dynamite was watched first. You know what I mean? Like,
I know I texted you this stuff, but just for the audience's clarity, the contrast of my day. So this morning with breakfast, I watched Midnight Run.
Yeah,
fantastic, classic, funny movie.
Right.
And then in the afternoon, I watch this, and I'm like, what? Can we just talk about Midnight Run? Because that was a great movie that I'd love to talk about. Okay, we got to deal with this. Enter the Fist. Shut your face. This movie doesn't deserve 2 titles.
Oh God, I know, and it sucks because it's like I absolutely watching it with a older eye, I guess.
Yeah,
it sucks because. It's not as funny as I would want it to be, in the vein of like Airplane or Black Dynamite. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't tickle in that same way.
Right.
Or even Mystery Science Theater 3000, because a lot of it kind of feels like that, there's a lot of those like little asides that I found to be funny, where it's just like the guys are hanging upside down and they're singing about being ventriloquists. And it's like, I remember really getting a good chuckle out of that. But then, here's the thing. The reality is that I didn't work at a comedy club when I first watched this. Right. And now I'm inundated with comedy and funny people. And it's you
were basically a child when you first watched this. So it's like, you didn't know funny. This was funny to you because...
Yeah, well, it's the same thing that America's Funniest Home Videos is funny.
Right, exactly.
It's like it's in that same vein. But now it's just like, oh man, like
another movie that we covered that I wish I was watching today was Kung Fu Hustle. That's a much better version of what this should be. Is basically a spoof on a kung fu movie done well.
Yeah, well, I mean,
has a story, has a beginning, has an end, is well acted, is well written, is well shot. Kung Fu Hustle is a fucking excellent movie. Go watch that, people. Don't watch this movie.
Stephen Chow blends comedy and kung fu in a very great way. I mean, Shaolin Soccer, which is a movie that will. It's a movie we'll get to. Is Shaolin Soccer is another one of his.
Right.
But it's funny and action packed, right? And this movie
is neither.
I mean, the reality is that it's neither.
It's neither.
And it's depressing. It's like it's really depressing in that way.
Right.
Because like I've watched so many movies. It's just you watch so many movies and martial art films. Jackie Chan movies are funnier than this movie. And
Legend of the Drunken Master. Go watch that instead of this.
So
every time I think of a movie,
original Drunken Master.
The original, yeah.
Because Legend of the Drunken,
it's the American version of it.
Yeah. Oh, but both of those are great. Rumble in the Bronx, First Strike, Super Cop, all of those movies are far better, and that's probably
Not
the
Iron
most.
Mask. Don't watch that.
Don't watch Iron Mask. Iron Mask. I think nostalgia wise, I like this better than Iron Mask.
I don't know. I don't know.
But they're in the same boat. They're in the same boat.
Iron Mask was made better. Yeah. Iron Mask, at least Arnold made me laugh a couple times, and the fight between him and Jackie was good. So it's like Iron Mask is definitely winning. Like this gave me nothing.
Yeah.
Like this gave me I sent you a text. I'm like the opening credits weren't over, and I fucking hated you. I'm like this is going to be torture.
So the movie starts.
I started drinking during the third act just to get through it. I'm like, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna quit. Like I'm just gonna tell Eddie I'm not doing the show this week. Like we're done.
The first scene is basically a poorly impostered version of the main villain, as he basically murders a family of the chosen one.
Yeah.
And there's a CGI baby.
And they rolled a baby down a fucking hill and
for 45 minutes.
And the CGI baby was terrible. It was like what was the Ally McBeal baby?
McBeal.
Yeah. The Ally McBeal, which I'm guessing was probably around this time. They probably saw her go, oh, okay, I get it. We can have that thing just do kung fu. And it's like, oh God, you guys are terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah. The Matrix, there's so many things that they tried to just incorporate because again, they tried to do a martial arts version of Scary Movie is basically what they were trying to do. And it just missed the mark terribly.
And maybe I don't know because this movie was made so bad and it wasn't made poorly from a technical standpoint. It was a bad movie. It was there was nothing funny about it. The script was terrible. I didn't give a shit. Like I was watching it, they gave me nothing. So I was about to say maybe a Scary Movie is a movie. They made a movie. They didn't take the Wayans brothers and put them into The Exorcist and have them sit in the background going, isn't this funny? She's puking up her foot. They didn't do that.
Right.
So it's like maybe if they made a spoof kung fu movie, I don't know. I doubt it. Just because of the script.
I don't
trust
these people. I don't trust these people because watching it again, it's like the lady with one boob. The lady with the one boob is just like, again, as a 14-year-old boy, you're like, she's got one boob.
It's no different than the three boobs in fucking Total Recall.
Yeah, right.
It's boobs. It doesn't matter. It's boobs. That's the only thing about it.
Right. Well, this is in this case, it's boob. Huh?
Boob, singular. The lead girl was basically doing a Miss Piggy impersonation.
Yeah, the whole time.
There was that scene where her and the old guy, I guess he was supposed to be Kung Pao's master or something like that. I don't even know if that's his fucking name. And they all die in one scene. It's like I don't know. It's like halfway through the movie, and I'm like, oh great, all those people are dead. I don't have to hear their voices anymore because the voices were fucking nauseating.
Yes.
And I'm just like, great.
Because I'm pretty sure he did all the voices.
Well, and then 2 seconds later, they're back alive. And the guy's like, just because a guy goes doesn't mean he's dead. I'm like, great. So I have to hear this shit for the rest of the movie. I thought they were done. I thought it was done with that fucking sketch. We can move on to the next sketch because that's all this is. It's bad sketch comedy. It's like, it's public. Yeah. It's like your buddies when you're, let's say we're in the 90s and your buddies think they're hilarious and they want to do a sketch comedy show on public access and they force you to watch the VHS tapes of it. That's what this is. It's bad.
I would say, it's in the 90s when you're watching a movie.
You go to somebody's house for a party and they make you watch their home movies. That's what this is. That's what this is.
It also feels more like somebody, because again, it's somebody that watched Mystery Science Theater 3000.
I love it.
I'm funny. I can do that. And then tried to do it in a kung fu movie. That's all this is.
Right. And I'm a big fan of that. And like, next week when you're going to have to go over to Tubi to watch the movie I have picked out, I would suggest going through, because Riff Tracks, which is basically the Mystery Science spinoff, has a bunch of their movies on Tubi, and like I've spent hours and hours just laughing my balls off. That is very funny. That is very funny. This is not.
Right.
This didn't even make me chuckle. This didn't even make me smile. Quite the opposite. Yeah. It made me frown. It made me angry. It made me drink. This is not a good movie.
Yeah.
I didn't want to drink today. I drank last night. I didn't want to drink today. And I'm sitting like, I have to get, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't come into this fucking podcast completely angry.
So funny.
So this is me at about an 8, not even a 10, let alone 11.
And an 8. But yeah, this movie is not good. There are parts that I did chuckle at back in the day, and then like nostalgia chuckled.
Sure.
One of the things is when the bad guy, Lord Ping, basically decides to change his name to Betty. Like, yeah.
I must have missed that. That must be the nuance I must have missed.
That is the nuance you missed. You missed the nuance of the movie.
Like, this is a movie that I didn't even pause when I had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, no, this movie,
I literally just let it play. I'm like, nope, I'm not taking any more.
It's very super. It is very surface level. It's not. There's no nuance to this movie. The most nuance is that if you have the DVD, there's an alternate commentary track where it's all of the original dialogue.
Yep.
So like the actual Chinese, and then all of the English actors have different dialogue. Like they say different words. And that's the only.
So Fox gave them more money to do that. And they put out a DVD, and oh my God, like, do you own the DVD?
I do own the DVD.
Oh, Eddie.
Yeah,
I own a lot of DVDs, but
do you want it? I can give it to you.
No.
Are you sure? You want me to buy it for you? I can buy it for you and send it down to Florida.
Good.
I'm gonna do that for your birthday.
I'm good.
I'm gonna get it signed too.
Good. You know what came out on DVD today? The fucking Unholy. Go buy that. Support me.
I'm gonna buy Kung Pao again. And then send it to you instead of the Unholy.
A decent movie. Go buy the Unholy. It's on Blu-ray and DVD now.
Yeah, it seems overrated. I'm gonna get the Kung Pao. It's definitely a properly rated movie.
Yeah, it is properly rated. If you listen to this podcast, it is shit.
But yeah,
it is a dumpster fire full of diarrhea.
Because there is dumb bits. There are dumb bits in this where,
it is a dumb bit.
Yeah, the whole thing's a dumb bit. But it's like there's dumb bits in this movie where, the villain's monologuing and then is just like, your shirt is blue, now it's red, and he like.
Yeah, I got it. Like, there was bad continuity in the movie they were using. I got it. It's like, but
yeah,
again, it's like Black Dynamite did it better.
Oh, Black Dynamite.
You know what I mean? I'm sitting there like, again, it was one of those things. Like that scene was the first time I was like, I wish I was watching Black Dynamite right now, because they were trying to do that. They were because yes, they overdubbed the villain, and he was talking to his henchman, and the henchman was wearing a black shirt, and then all of a sudden they cut away, and the same guy has a red shirt on, and he says it's now magic because he can make the shirt red, and then the next scene he's like, and now your shirt is black, and it's black again. And I get it, it was bad continuity in the kung fu movie that they were basically stealing for this movie, and I just wanted to watch Black Dynamite.
Of course.
Black Dynamite. I'm like, I get it, you're not doing it well, like, I don't care, it's not funny. It's not like you're not making this funny. Like, you're being very. It wasn't funny. It was very literal.
Yeah,
like they weren't making jokes about the bad continuity. They were just pointing it out. And it's like,
this is how I imagine how you're feeling is how I felt after watching Grandma's Boy.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, not as angry. Not nearly as angry. Not nearly as angry. No, but that's the way you're describing it is similar to how I felt about Grandma's Boy.
Sure.
Just because it was like, oh, I get it. It's just not good.
You were high. You didn't get high and watch it. That was the problem.
Well, you didn't get high and watch this, now did you?
I wasn't. This isn't a get high and watch a movie. It's a kung fu movie. I don't need to get high to enjoy a kung fu movie.
Sure. Well, sometimes they're better if you're high.
All right, challenge accepted. But I don't need to.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, this movie is garbage. And I think that we've said this movie's garbage is about as many times as we can. So do you want to talk about Loki?
Sure.
Sure. You're caught up, right?
What's today?
Today is Tuesday. So there's a new episode. Yes. Episode 3 is tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm caught up. I'm like it's my impression of it is it's interesting.
Yes.
And this goes. Are we doing spoilers or are we not doing spoilers?
Let's try and not talk. Let's try not to. Just because
we'll keep it as vague as possible.
Sure.
So I feel this is much more in line with obviously WandaVision than it would be Falcon Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And I feel very similar as I did watching the first few episodes of WandaVision, where it's like, okay, they're trying something here. This is this is interesting. Like my only comment online about Loki so far was after the first episode. It's very interesting.
Yeah,
it's a very interesting show. Yeah. I'm not sure where they're going, but that's kind of the point.
Oh, yeah. I absolutely love this show because so far we've had 3 very different experiences. Because WandaVision is set in its own special universe, but kind of opens up to the grander world of magic outside of Doctor Strange.
Right.
Which is very interesting unto itself, but it's this contained thing that happened over here.
Right.
You know, it doesn't take any, grandiose approach.
Right.
And then Falcon and the Winter Soldier shows where the MCU is after the snap. Like after Endgame, this is where we are because Spider-Man only like half counts.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they played it for a joke. And it just kind of is what it was. Whereas like Falcon and the Winter Soldier really kind of sat down and was just like, no, this is the state of the world that we're in. And now Loki is taking the approach to setting up the overall arcing story for phase 4.
Right.
And like, there's a lot of stuff happening in terms of like characters that are showing up. But the big one is I think that we're going to get the main bad guy, and whether he's like Thanos level, for like, 3 phases and ultimately culminating in that, I don't know. I think that MCU is going to take a little bit more of a micro approach where it's like, no, the big bad guy is going to be for 1, and then we're just going to kind of keep going phase to phase to phase. And I think that this is going to set up that character.
Okay.
It's very interesting. It is incredibly.
Who's the character? Do you have an idea? Who
his name is Kang the Conqueror.
Okay, that wasn't what I was thinking.
And so Kang the Conqueror is a time traveler that hates the Avengers. And so his imagery looks very similar, like at least his comic book counterpart looks very similar to the statues you see of the people that control the timeline.
Oh, okay. I got you. I feel that at least in the next couple, like the first, what have we gone through? 4 phases now of the MCU.
Right. This is 4.
This is 4. Okay. So for the first 3 phases, we kind of were in the same world, right?
Right.
And I feel with WandaVision, which is clearly splintering off into the next Doctor Strange movie, and now with this, which is really basically creating the multiverse and timelines, it feels like. Even they hinted a little bit at it with Spider-Man, then that whole thing. That the MCU going forward is going to be sectioned off. It's like you're going to have the Falcon Winter Soldier. This is the grounded MCU timeline that we're in. And then there's going to be the weird, not even space stuff with Guardians and Thor, but like just bonkers time travel. This doesn't exist. This is different. This is weird. You know, Loki is on 15 different time paths, and Wanda creates the fucking multiverse or whatever the fuck it is with Doctor Strange. And, you know, it's going to be kind of all over the place, I feel. And it's going to be interesting to see how they bring it all together.
Well, it's interesting. Like, the way it works is it feels like it's getting more towards the comic books, right?
Okay.
And how, like, expansive that stuff is.
Right.
You know, and I think that we're looking at it merging with that sort of continuity. Not necessarily, but it's like with everything that's going on in Loki, right? Especially after the end of episode 2.
Right.
Then this is how you introduce the X-Men, right? Like, we've talked about, like, stupid, weird things with WandaVision where she creates the event that does it. Whereas, like, in this show, in Loki, you've potentially built in the device to do it.
Sure.
You know, how to, like, rewrite that history and rewrite that continuity. So it's like, oh yeah, these guys have been here the entire time because you're dealing with this weird time travel nonsense. No. It also feels like a weird DC storyline. So,
meaning it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, no. So ultimately it didn't, but DC Comics did a thing where they canceled all of their comic books and started something called the New 52. Okay. And basically what the New 52 was just hitting the reset button on the comic books. Mm-hmm. So they, like, slightly redesigned all the characters, and they made everybody, like, younger and, like, played with the continuity of stuff. So, like, basically a big one is Wally West, the Flash's sidekick, one of the people that played the Flash. Gotcha. He all of a sudden was gone. He was absolutely gone. And the guy that replaced him was an African American, and that was the Flash's sidekick, and that was Wally West.
Okay.
And so that was the type of stuff that they did. And it was just weird because they just changed all these weird, small, minor things with characters up and down the roster. Okay. Obviously, people didn't like it. They were like, this is stupid, because all of this character development and growth that character A had, you just set him back 15 years. Like, it never happened. Like, this important story and that important story, like, didn't happen. So it was like, that's stupid. Mm-hmm. And so what they did was they did an event where it was all Dr. Manhattan's fault from Watchmen. Okay. And it feels like that's what Loki is. Okay. And so it feels like somebody is going to mess with this timeline and really kind of rewrite things.
Yeah, that I can absolutely see happening. Now,
Tony Stark is coming back.
Sure. Going back to what you said about having the ability now to just basically create the X-Men, and they've always been there because they've been sitting over on this thing the whole time. Do you think that's how they're going to bring the Eternals in? Because, I mean, they got a movie coming out, I think, this year, actually.
Yeah.
And what I've been seeing online is the joke meme, like, where the hell were you during Endgame? Because I guess they're powerful or something. I don't know. I don't know anything about them.
So basically, the short version is that their cousin, like, they're the stronger cousins of Thanos.
Okay, so they're bad?
No, they're good guys. But, like, if Thanos was acting up, one of these people would come in and put him in his place. Like,
in the comics.
In the comics. Like, that's the very basic ballpark, like, you know.
So what's your take? I mean, granted, I know the real answer is they just hadn't got to the movie yet, and you can't introduce these people, you know, in time for Endgame. But what's the storyline going to be? Do you think it's going to be closer to what you were saying with, like, they existed on one of these timelines?
So the only thing in episode 4 that really didn't need to be in any particular order was Black Widow.
Widow. Phase 4, you mean?
Phase 4, yes. In Phase 4, Black Widow is the only one that didn't really have a definitive place.
Right.
Whereas I feel like Loki needed to come out now, right? In order to do everything else that we're doing, Loki needs to have come out.
Well, that was like, and we kind of talked about this a few times when we brought up the MCU, because, like, they could push Black Widow indefinitely, because my opinion, without having seen it yet, is the only thing that's going to connect to the future of the MCU is probably going to be the end credit scene, which I'm assuming is probably going to set up the Hawkeye TV show, because we've mentioned that Florence Pugh is in Black Widow, and she's in Hawkeye. Whereas it's been said from day one that the Disney Plus shows are in line with Phase 4. So while they've been pushing theatrical stuff, it's like they can't push these because these are going to have to come before those, I think.
Right.
You know what I mean?
As long as Black Widow comes before the Hawkeye TV show, it doesn't matter if it was before WandaVision, after WandaVision, before Falcon and the Winter Soldier, after,
because technically it takes place right after Civil War, right?
Yeah, it's between Civil War and Infinity War.
Right.
So
it's when she's on the run. She's on
the run. She goes home, and then, like you said, the end credit scene is going to be the important thing, and that ties into Hawkeye. Assumedly. So we need to talk about. So again, I think it all boils down to, kind of where Loki settles, right? Because
I'm interested. Like, again, we're only 2 episodes in, and it's not. It's definitely something like each episode, I feel much like I did with early WandaVisions, whereas like I was watching it a couple times during the week, because there's it's not like, this is not as much like reference based, I feel, as WandaVision. Like WandaVision was all reference, Easter egg. And then Falcon Winter Soldier was just, it was an action espionage show. So it's like you didn't need to like dig through these episodes and try to look for little, Easter eggs and stuff like that. I was like, no, it was very much on the surface. It's like, this is, they're going to replace Captain America with Kurt Russell's son. And then, these guys are all going to fight, and Zemo's over here, and here's the Black Panther, and all this stuff. It's like, it's very on the surface. There's not a lot of subtext to that. This one goes back to, there's more subtext, but less Easter egg. It's like, you have to pay attention to the stories and the stuff, especially when having no comic knowledge, because now we're talking about, skewering off on this tangent and that tangent and this and that, especially because it all started with Loki from the first Avengers movie. So you still have to put that into the time frame. And this isn't Loki from Endgame that died, which,
that's my favorite. It's my favorite thing is where they position this Loki,
right?
Because we have stunted his growth, right? Because Loki that we see in Endgame that dies because of Thanos, he has a lot of character growth, right?
Oh yeah, well he's come around. Like Ragnarok helped bring him around, and him and Thor are now on the same team fighting together as opposed to against each other. Now we're back to Loki from whatever 2013
from Avengers.
14. The first Avengers movie. And it's interesting. And also I like the fact that like Owen Wilson has a line in the show where Loki asks him, I think, how long have you been here? He's like, I don't know. Time moves differently here. So there's you can't really tell when the hell this is. You know what I mean? Because, again, Loki took the Tesseract and fucked off. So he's somewhere else, or some time else.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the whole, I don't think it's spoiling too much to say the whole thing is kind of time travel-y. You know what I mean? The whole plot of this is very much timeline based, and very much goes to, it expands obviously into a full series of what the scene with Hulk and the Ancient One. That scene in Endgame where she's talking about skewering off timelines. It's like, that's this series. Like, so, and that's all I keep thinking back to. It's like, all right, well, I think I gotta go there, and that thing. But
it's gonna be interesting to see where they tie it all together, because I think that it's gonna be fractured to a point where, because like in the DC show, or in the DC comics version, which is the closest thing I have a reference point to, is Dr. Manhattan ripped apart the timeline.
Right.
And he put it back together. He didn't put it back together correctly. Okay. So that explains the New 52, because when he put it all together, things were a little different. right? And that's kind of what I expect this to be. And like I joke saying that Tony Stark is going to come back, but that's a potential, right? Where
it just
it's
might not
like,
be Robert Downey Jr.
It just might not be Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
You know, and so like that's the idea of like Tony Stark might come back because, you know, when they fix everything that's going on in Loki, it's not fixed correctly. And that's, you know, oh, maybe Tony didn't die at the end of Endgame. You know what I mean? And now here we go. You know, same thing with Steve Rogers. You know what I mean? Like that's a big question that you see. That's a big question you see over the last couple of weeks with Loki is so Steve Rogers is able to just go back in time and hang out for forever, and this organization didn't want to do anything about it.
And I love how shitty their reasoning for that is. It's because it was meant to be.
Oh yeah, well,
because Loki says it. He's like, well, the Avengers go back in time, and like that was supposed to happen. You can't do that. You can't. You're just making the rules up.
One thing I think is kind of cool though is someone talks about Doctor Strange, and how if there was only always going to be one outcome, how did he see so many? My thought is, and it goes back to a quote from Doctor Who, is that there's an episode called Blink. If you're ever going to watch one Doctor Who episode, watch that one. It's very good. And he says in that episode that people think that time is linear and cause to effect, when in reality, it's a big, slimy, wimey, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, and it's just like, I guess that got away from me, right? But he basically explains it, and that's how it feels, where it's like, oh, everything that happened in episode 2 of Loki happened then, but then also happened throughout time. And that's how Doctor Strange was able to see all of those things, because when he looked, that other stuff had already happened. Right. Which is nuts.
Yeah. And when we can talk spoilers, we'll explain what that is.
Yeah. But you know, if you watch the episode and you know what I'm talking about, it's like, oh yeah, maybe.
Owen Wilson's good in this too. I'm not an Owen Wilson fan, but he's good in this.
He is.
Him and Tom Hiddleston have a lot of back and forth conversational dialogue that really works. They're doing very well working together. Yeah, and that again, I'm trying to tiptoe around not spoiling things, but the receptionist guy, very funny.
Oh, he's very funny.
His whole little story arc part is very funny.
He is. He's in Tacoma FD.
Yep.
Have you ever watched that?
I have. Yeah. Broken Lizard.
Show.
Yeah.
Such a funny show. But yeah. So I think that's Loki. Just trying to end everything on a more positive, less kung pao note.
I appreciate it. Yeah, that's our spoiler-free Loki, and that's Kung Pao Enter the Fist. Coming up next week, boot up your Tubi, because we're gonna do Cool as Ice.
Well,
the 30th anniversary of the Vanilla Ice movie, Cool as Ice.
Okay. Well, all I know about Vanilla Ice, aside from his music, is that Under Pressure goes ding 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 ding.
Yep.
And Ice Ice Baby goes ding 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 ding. See, it's different.
It's completely different.
Completely different. It's the only thing I know.
That and that's Suge Knight hung him outside a hotel balcony window over money. Yeah,
of course.
Cool as Ice. Coming up next week on That Movie Show. I told you to get your receipt, and then we're gonna have to figure out some decent movies to fucking cover, because I can't see these getting many numbers.
We haven't done The Godfather. Let's do The Godfather after that.
Okay. Well,
I just bought it on Blu-ray.
All right. We'll do The Godfather after that. Thank you for joining us on That Movie Show. If you joined us for this week, if you just saw the the cover art and clicked buy, well, sorry, you missed it. But thanks for joining us on That Movie Show. You can follow, subscribe. We are on every and all podcast app. Please subscribe, rate, review, etc. Share. You can follow Eddie and myself on social media at Mike Wendt, at the Eddie McCabe, hashtag That Movie Show. The website is thatmovieshow.net. The Facebook page is facebook.com/thatmovieshowtv. And anything else, Eddie?
You got to go follow the new show. I launched a history podcast.
Yes.
Where I sit down with a friend of mine who is a real life history teacher, and he teaches me stuff about history. It's one if by land, two if by tea. So go check that out.
All right. Anything else going on in your TikTok?
You know what? I have one that I almost posted today, but it's not appropriate. So I'm going to tell you off air.
All right. Can't wait to see that. And we'll see you back here next week for Cool as Ice.
Bye, everybody.
That's Hooey Valley, Hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic